Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rosa Parks mock trial. I am Ty Alper, the bailiff and court clerk in this courtroom. Please turn off all cell phones and pagers. If I hear a phone go off, I will confiscate it. You are free to take pictures, but please do not use distracting flashes. Once the trial starts, the judge will not tolerate any talking, applauding, or outbursts of emotion. I don't want to have to kick anyone out of the courtroom. Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Rachel Alper to say a few words.
Thank you all for coming to the 5th annual Rosa Parks mock trial. My name is Rachel Alper, and I'm a freshman at Berkeley High. I was in the first ever Rosa Parks mock trial when I was in 5th grade, and I've been helping teach mock trial and write the cases ever since. I'm going to take a few minutes to explain what a mock trial is and to thank the people who made this all happen. A mock trial is essentially a trial around a made-up case. These students were given a set of facts, and they have been using the skills they've learned this year to prepare arguments and witness examinations. A mock trial is very different from a play, in the sense that there was no script given to the students. They had to work with witnesses to draw out the facts of the case and prepare them to testify. They had to come up with questions and prepare arguments for the jury. The student lawyers have not heard the opposing side's arguments or cross-examined the other side's witnesses, just like in real life. They have to adjust their questions and their arguments based on what evidence comes out tonight. Also, the witnesses have never been cross-examined by the lawyers who will be cross-examining them tonight. Because this is a trial, not a performance, we are required to respect the court by not clapping or making any noise until the end. We don't want to influence the jury. Before the trial starts, there's a number of people we'd like to thank. First, thanks is owed to the lawyers who volunteered their time to teach mock trial. Ty Alper, James Stevens, Kate Weisberg, Bidish Sarma, and Joy Haviland. You can clap. Yeah. We would also like to thank Rosa Parks principal Paco Furlan and all the teachers who let us use their classrooms and who have supported the program. Again, you can clap. Just to clarify, the no clapping rule starts like after this, basically. We'd like to thank Kids Village teachers Jessie Baird and Fabiola Gutierrez. Jessie in particular spent countless hours working with the kids and their families, and we could not have done this program without her. We'd like to thank the parents for getting their kids to class early in the morning and for helping them prepare. Carrie Wilson especially is not here, but she came in a number of times to help teach. We'd like to thank the jurors, who you'll see in a moment, who have given up their time to come do this public service. We'd also like to thank Mark Metz, a mock trial alum who helped mock trial students with their homework. And my little brothers, Casey, who is our bailiff, and Owen, who will be playing the defendant. And finally, I'd like to thank the Honorable Judge Smiley, who is the presiding judge of the Juvenile Division of the Alameda County Superior Court. And lastly, I'd like to remind you all again that starting now, no clapping.
All rise. The Honorable Charles Smiley, Alameda County Superior Court presiding. You may be seated. Now calling case number 15 CR 3419, People v. Mark McLax.
Mr. Alper, please have the defendant brought in. Mr. Espinosa. Is Miss Espinosa? Yeah. Wait, right over here? How are you? Are you ready to proceed? Thank you. Mr. Lewis, are you ready to proceed? All right, thank you. Very well. Mr. Alper, it's time to bring in the jury. Thank you, Mr. Alper. All right, welcome to our jury. Now that you are settled, I want to begin with some comments directed at each of you. First, I want to thank you. Now, the defendant in this case, Mark McLax, is accused of committing the crime of theft. You are here to decide if Mr. McLax is guilty or not guilty. The defendant in a criminal case is presumed to be innocent. Just because he's sitting here before you does not mean he is guilty. The prosecution must prove Mr. McLax is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you very sure the allegation is true. The evidence the prosecution presents does not have to get rid of all possible doubt, because everything in life is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. It is up to you as jurors to decide which witnesses to believe. In deciding whether the testimony is true, use your common sense and experience. Consider the testimony of each witness and decide how much of it you believe. Among the factors you may consider are these. How well could the witness see or hear the things about which the witness testifies? How well was the witness able to remember and describe what happened? Was the witness's testimony influenced by a personal relationship with someone involved in the case? The defendant, Mr. McLax, is charged with one count of theft. Now that's a violation of Penal Code Section 484. To prove that the defendant is guilty of this crime, the prosecution must prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Mark McLax, took property or money owned by someone else without the owner's permission. After you hear all the testimony and arguments in this case, you will talk amongst yourselves, which is called deliberating. You will then vote to decide whether you think Mr. McLax is guilty or not guilty. Your decision, which is called a verdict, must be unanimous. That means all 14 of you must agree. And if you do not agree, we call that a hung jury. But I am hopeful that you will reach a unanimous decision. Before we begin, I would like to ask all members of the jury to make sure you do not speak, laugh, or make any noise during the trial. Please also turn off your cell phones and refrain from looking at them during the trial. We want everyone to be able to concentrate on the lawyers and the witnesses who are conducting this trial. Now, we have a lot of folks in the audience today. The public is allowed to view trials, but I'll ask that they also resist the temptation to applaud or cheer or anything of the like during the trial. So thank you all, jurors and audience, for your anticipated cooperation. Let's proceed with opening statements. Who among the prosecution team is prepared to offer an opening statement? You are? And tell me your name, counsel. Miss Lily Stobing? Thank you. I'm ready to hear your opening statement.
This is a case about a teenager who really wanted an iPhone 7. You'll hear that Mark McClax, a senior at Berkeley High who plays goalie for the lacrosse team, stole money from the lacrosse team bake sale, money that was supposed to buy new jerseys so that he could buy a brand new iPhone 7. At the end of this trial, after you have heard all of the evidence in this case, my colleague, Miss Espinoza, will come up here and ask you to find Mark McClax guilty of theft. We will hear from both Saba Sultan, a prosecution witness, and Dolores McKenzie, a defense witness, that Mark was always talking about how much he really wanted an iPhone 7. All of his friends had an iPhone 7, and Mark is the kind of guy who wants the newest phone. Miss McKenzie is Mark's boss at his job. She also will tell you that when she gave him a bonus, he said he would have to find another way to come up with more money to buy the iPhone. You'll hear testimony that he did find a way to come up with more money a few weeks later. Gilbert Mendoza will testify for the prosecution. He is the captain of the lacrosse team. He will tell you about how the bake sale works every year. He will tell you that there is always at least one person selling cookies and brownies at the table. You will hear from Mr. Mendoza that every year they make at least $1,000 because there are 500 cookies and brownies, and they sell them for $2 each. But you will hear from Mr. Mendoza that only 723 was in the box at the end of the day. That means that at least 250 was stolen, even if they did give out a free cookies and brownies. You will hear Ed Chin describe what happened at the bake sale. He will tell you that he worked the same shift as Mark. He will testify that Mark sent him to the end of the block to hold a sign to attract more business. This is important. Ed Chin will tell you that he saw Mark McClax reaching into the metal box that held all of the bake sale money, and take out money and put it straight into his pocket. Mark will also tell you that Mark asked for a later shift to work at the bake sale. Of course, the later he worked, the more money there would be in the box. You will learn that the following Monday, Mark's friend Salva Sultan was hanging out with Mark in downtown Berkeley. He told her to grab his water bottle from his bag. When she did, she will tell you that she saw a wad of cash at the bottom of his bag. Ladies and gentlemen, you are going to hear where that cash came from at the end of this trial. You will know that Mark McClax stole money from the Berkeley High lacrosse team bake sale, and that makes him guilty of theft. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stobing. Thank you. And who from the defense team will offer an opening statement at this time?
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello, sir. And what is your name?
Nolan Whitehill.
Mr. Whitehill, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today because Mark McClax is accused of stealing about $250 from a bake sale. But ladies and gentlemen, he is not guilty. And after you hear all of the evidence in this case, from both sides, not just the prosecution, you will know that he is not guilty. You will hear that Mark McClax was the one who asked if he could use the money from the bake sale to get the lacrosse team new jerseys. Why would he be motivated to take his own jersey funds? You will hear the only witness who saw the reported theft, Ed Chin, who was not wearing his glasses. He was a block away and looking at a small box. Not only could this witness not have seen what he claims to have seen, the evidence will show that this witness has a motive to accuse the defendant of theft. Mark McClax is a goalie for the lacrosse team, and Ed Chin is the substitute if Mark is unable to play. If Mark McClax is kicked off the team from an accusation of theft, Ed Chin will move up to head goalie. You'll hear from the prosecution that when Mark McClax asked his friend to grab his water in his backpack, she saw money in the bottom of the pack. But my client, Mark McClax, was just given a bonus from his boss, Dolores McKenzie. That money was in the backpack. You will hear that the operation of the bake sale was sloppy, money unaccounted for, variable pricing. The product was even given to friends for free. And ladies and gentlemen, we do not even know how much cookies they started out with. How can anyone know how much money was lost with this sort of an operation? Ladies and gentlemen, after you have heard all of the evidence in this case, you will not be able to find a verdict of guilty in evidence in this case. Beyond a reasonable doubt. At the end of this case, my colleague, Mr. Lewis, will come before you and ask and impose the only fair verdict in this case, not guilty.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehill. I'll let the jury know at this time that the opening statements are not evidence, but the attorneys are given an opportunity to tell you what they expect the evidence in this case will show. Now we will move to the phase where we receive the evidence in this case upon which you will later deliberate. Mr. Whitehill, are you and your team ready to present your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please call your first witness. I'm sorry. Thank you. My courtroom is set up differently. Who from the prosecution team will be presenting the first witness? Thank you. What is your name? Ms. Espinosa. Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
The prosecution calls up Gilbert.
Gilbert Mendoza, please come forward.
I do.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Gilbert Mendoza, Mendoza.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
What school do you go to?
I go to Berkeley High.
What grade are you in?
I'm a junior.
What were you doing on... Do you play a sport?
Yes.
What were you doing on February 4th?
I was at the Berkeley lacrosse team bake sale
Why did you have a bake sale?
to raise money for the jerseys.
What time did you get to the bake sale at?
Around 4:30.
Do you know Mark McClax?
Yes.
How do you know him?
He's the goalie.
Did Mark participate in the bake sale?
Yes.
When the bake sale ended, how much money was in the metal box?
$750.
How many cookies and brownies did you start with?
Around 500.
How much did you sell them each for?
$2.
So at the end of the day, how much money should there have been in the metal box?
1,000.
How much money do you think was stolen?
$250.
Did you tell anyone about the stolen money?
Yes.
Who did you tell?
The coach.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination from the defense team.
Good afternoon. You said on direct examination that you worked at the bake sale on Saturday, February 4th, 2017. Is that right?
Yes.
The bake sale was from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., right?
Yes.
And you got there at 4:30 p.m.
Yes.
You stayed until the end?
I did.
At no time did you see Mark at the bake sale.
I did not.
You did not see Mark at any time on February 4th?
Nope.
So you certainly did not see him steal any money from anyone.
I did not see him steal any money.
At the bake sale, there are always two people working at once. Is that right?
Yes.
But sometimes someone has to go to the bathroom?
Yep.
So sometimes there's only one person sitting at the bake sale table.
That is true.
Now, you don't know whether there were exactly 500 sweets at the start of the bake sale, correct?
That is correct.
But you sold about 500 baked goods?
What?
You sold about 500 baked goods.
Yes.
Now, you do not know whether they're... And they each costed $2?
Yes.
Which would mean you should have had a total of $1,000 at the end?
Yep.
But it's true that you don't know exactly how many you started with.
Yep.
You could have started with fewer than 500 sweets,
Yes.
and you started with fewer. And if you started with fewer than 500, you would have expected to have ended up with less than $1,000 at the end of the day, right? And sometimes the kids at the table eat the sweets.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Without paying for them.
Yes.
That would mess up the count too, right?
Yes.
Now, you are the captain of the team, right?
Yes, I am.
And you are in charge?
I am.
You are responsible for raising money
I am.
and getting new jerseys?
Yes.
If you don't have enough money to buy jerseys, everyone will blame you, right?
That is true.
Everyone will say it was your fault?
Yeah.
So you're looking for someone to blame, aren't you?
Kind of. Yes.
Thank you. No further questions asked. Thank you. This witness will be excused. Does the prosecution have another witness to present at this time? Thank you. Please call your witness. Thank you. Remain standing. We're going to swear you in. Counselor, why don't you begin by telling us your name, please?
Miles Marcus.
Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chin. Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Ed Chin, Chinn.
Thank you. Do you go to school?
Yes.
What school do you attend, Mr. Chin?
Berkeley High School.
Do you play a sport?
Yes.
What sport do you play?
Lacrosse.
And how does your lacrosse team make money?
Every year we have a bake sale.
What job did you have at the lacrosse team bake sale this year?
Assigning shifts.
How many people work during one shift at the bake sale?
2.
Do you know the defendant, Mark McClax?
Yes.
During the bake sale, what time slot did you give Mark McClax?
4:30.
Did he request that time slot?
Yes.
What exactly did he say?
He said I need a time slot later in the day. I asked him why. He replied, "None of your business."
Who did you work with during your shift at the bake sale?
Mark McClax.
Were you and Mark together the whole shift?
No.
Why not?
He sent me down to the end of the block to advertise for the bake sale.
While you were away from the table, did you see anything strange happen?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw Mark McClax steal money from the money box.
Do you wear glasses?
Yes, for school.
Why don't you wear your glasses all the time?
Because they're only for reading and homework.
Did you tell anyone about the theft?
Yes.
Who did you tell?
The coach.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Does the defense team have cross-examination for Mr. Chin?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Ed Chin.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You are 17 years old, correct?
Correct.
You know Mark McClax, correct?
Correct.
You are on the Berkeley High lacrosse team, correct?
Correct.
Your team has a bake sale every year, correct?
Correct.
And this year you're deciding to spend the money on new jerseys.
Yes.
You work the same shift as Mark.
Yes.
You wear glasses.
Correct.
And you were not wearing them the day you claimed you saw Mark steal the money.
Correct.
You said on direct that at the bake sale you saw Mark take money out of the metal box.
Yes.
And again, at the time, you were not wearing your glasses.
Yes, correct.
This metal box is the size of a shoebox. You were down at the end of the block during the bake sale.
Yes.
And there were lots of people standing between you and the bake sale table.
Yes.
There was a farmer's market going on the block.
Correct.
You were a block away from where Mark was, standing when you claimed to see him steal the money.
Correct.
You and Mark are both goalies.
Correct.
Mark gets to play instead of you.
Yes.
The coach thinks Mark is a better player than you are.
Yes.
You think you are a better goalie.
Correct.
You want to play goalie
Yes.
instead of Mark. You would really like to be the starting goalie.
Yes.
If Mark is kicked off the team, that means you will be goalie.
Correct.
And if Mark gets in trouble, he'll be kicked off the team.
Yes.
So if Mark gets in trouble, you would get to be goalie, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
You would like that, wouldn't you?
Very much.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. You're excused. Any other witnesses for the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. The people would like to call Solitary.
Thank you. Will the witness please come forward? Please remain standing and raise your right hand to be sworn. Counsel, why don't you begin by telling us your name?
Benjamin Ross.
Thank you. And would you check your microphone to make sure it's working? Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening. Please state your first and last name and spell it out for the record.
Saba Sultan, Sultan.
How old are you?
I am 16.
What school do you attend?
I attend Berkeley High.
What grade are you in?
I am in 8th grade.
Does Berkeley High have a lacrosse team?
Yes.
What fundraisers does the lacrosse team do?
They have a bake sale every year.
How do you know the defendant, Mark McLax?
Yes.
How do you know him?
We go to school together.
Is there anything that you know Mark really wanted?
He really wanted an iPhone 7.
Did he have an iPhone 7?
No, he did not.
Why did Mark not buy an iPhone if he wanted it so much?
Because he didn't have enough money.
A few days before the bake sale, did Mark tell you anything regarding the iPhone 7?
Yes, he said that he really wanted to get an iPhone 7, but he could never have enough money to get one.
Did you visit the bake sale?
Yes.
Were you there while Mark was there?
Yes, I was.
Did you see Mark after the bake sale?
Yes.
When and where did you see him?
Wait, what?
When and where did you see Mark McLax?
I saw him at downtown Berkeley.
When and where did you see him?
On Monday.
Did Mark have anything with him?
Yes, he had an iPhone 7. And a backpack. He had a backpack.
Did you see anything in the bag?
Yes, he asked me to get his water bottle, and I saw a wad of cash at the bottom.
A couple days later, did you see Mark?
Yes, I did.
What did Mark have that seemed unusual?
He had an iPhone 7.
What did you say to him?
I said, I thought you didn't have enough money to buy an iPhone 7.
What happened afterwards?
He quickly walked away. He said, no, I didn't say that, and quickly walked away.
Did that make sense to you?
No, it did not.
Why didn't that make sense?
Because that's what he told me, and then he was acting a little strangely.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Is there a cross-examination for this witness? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you begin, would you give us your name, please?
Micaiah Cole.
Say your full name.
Micaiah Cole.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Micaiah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mark won in New Jersey's, right?
Yes, he did.
In fact, he was very excited about getting the New Jerseys.
Yes, he was.
He told you that, right?
Yes, he did.
To get the jerseys, they would have to make money. To get the jerseys, they would have to make money at the bake sale, right?
Yes.
If they didn't get the money, they wouldn't get the New Jerseys.
That is correct.
They would have to stick with the ratty old jerseys they had.
Yes, they would.
They wouldn't want to show up to their game with ratty old jerseys.
No, they would not.
Mark didn't want that, right?
No, he didn't.
That's why Mark wanted to raise money
Yes.
from the bake sale.
Yes.
Mark is a trustworthy Mark is a trustworthy person.
Yes, he is.
You were at the bake sale, right?
Yes, I was.
You saw Mark there, right?
Yes, I did.
You didn't see Mark take any money, did you?
No, I didn't.
Thank you. No further questions.
Witnesses excused. Does the prosecution team have any further witnesses? Thank you. Do the lawyers need an opportunity to confer with their coaches at this time? Okay. We'll take a brief second to allow that to happen.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while the court is in recess. All right, the court is back in session. The Honorable Charles Smiley presiding.
Thank you. The prosecution rests. Thank you. All right, let's turn our attention to the defense case in chief. Does the defense have any witnesses to present at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls for Sean Davis.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Rashawn Davis, Davis.
How old are you?
I am 16.
What school do you go to?
I go to Berkeley High.
What grade are you in?
I am a junior.
Are you on the lacrosse team?
No,
Are you friends with the kids on the lacrosse team?
some of them.
Does the lacrosse team have a bake sale?
Yes,
Do you have a family member that plays a role in the bake sale?
correct.
Who?
My dad does.
What is your dad's role in the bake sale?
He bakes the baked goods every year.
Does the lacrosse team keep good track of their money at the bake sale?
No,
Do they keep track of how many cookies and brownies they sell?
no,
How much money did the lacrosse team sell each cookie for?
$2.
Do the kids at the bake sale make everyone pay the exact same amount per cookie?
No,
Do they sometimes give out free cookies?
yes,
Does your dad count the number of sweets he bakes?
no,
Does he make exactly 500 cookies and brownies?
no.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Will there be cross-examination from the prosecution? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Good evening.
Your dad has been making brownies and cookies for many years, right?
Yes,
And he made about 500 brownies and cookies for this bake sale.
yes,
You testified that your dad didn't count the brownies and cookies,
correct.
but you didn't ask him how many cookies and brownies he made, did you?
No,
So there may have been 500 brownies and cookies at the bake sale.
maybe.
You weren't at the bake sale when Mark was there, right?
No,
You're really good friends with Mark?
yes,
You've known each other for a long time,
correct.
since kindergarten,
Yes,
and now you're in high school.
yes,
So you've been friends for more than 10 years.
correct.
You don't want him to get in trouble, do you?
No,
You would hate to see anything bad happen to him, right?
correct.
You would do anything to help him, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't lie.
Okay. You certainly don't want him to see him go to jail, do you?
No,
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Witnesses excused. Any other witnesses for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense called Rebecca Epstein.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Why don't you come forward? Ms. Epstein?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name. Please state your name for the record.
Rebecca Epstein.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
What is your job?
I work in the team of lacrosse.
Where do you coach lacrosse? Where do you coach lacrosse?
In lacrosse team in Berkeley High.
Do you know Mark McLax?
Yes.
How do you know Mark?
I know him for 2 years.
How long? Wait. Does Mark like being on the lacrosse team?
Yes.
What was the team having the bake sale? Was the team having a bake sale?
Yes.
What was the bake sale for?
To get new jerseys.
How did Mark feel about the team getting new jerseys?
Happy.
Whose idea was it to spend the bake sale money on jerseys?
Mark's.
Why did he want to spend the money on the jerseys?
Because the other jerseys were rotten and stinky.
Let's talk about what happened at the bake sale. Did you see any kids who were selling the cookies eat the cookies without paying?
Yes.
Why were they eating the cookies without paying?
Because their friends were giving them to them.
Did you say anything to the team about eating cookies without paying?
Yes, I told them to stop eating the cookies and brownies.
Did you see any kids who were selling the cookies give them away for free to their friends?
Yes.
How careful are the kids with the money?
Really bad.
Does the team write down how many cookies and brownies were sold?
No.
Who told you that Mark stole the money?
Etchin.
Was Etchin certain that he saw Mark steal the money?
He said that he might have saw Etchin. He thought that he might have stole the money.
Does Ed want to be goalie?
Yes.
What would happen if Mark was kicked off the team?
Then Etchin will be the goalie.
Thank you. No further question.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
You are the coach of the Berkeley High lacrosse team.
Yes.
Every year you do a bake sale?
Yes.
This year, were you at the bake sale?
Yes.
When you were at the bake sale, you didn't see Mark, did you?
Yes.
Edson told you that he thought that Mark stole some money from the cash box?
Yes.
Mark is really good at lacrosse.
What?
Mark is really good at lacrosse, right?
Yes.
Mark is better at lacrosse than Edson.
No. Wait, yes, yeah.
Anybody on the lacrosse team who got convicted of a crime would be kicked off the team, correct?
Yes.
In fact, In fact, that happened to you once before.
Yes.
With another player?
Yes.
And he got kicked off the team.
Yes.
You wouldn't want to see that happen again, would you?
No.
If Mark was found guilty of stealing, you'd be kicked off the team.
Yes.
And so Ed Shin would have to replace Mark, right?
Yes.
Mark is a better goalie than Ed.
What?
And Mark is a better goalie than Ed.
Yes.
If Mark was kicked off the team would be worse off.
Yes.
You are proud of your team.
Yes.
Because you are the coach. So you really don't want to see Mark get in trouble, do you? And also, your job sort of depends on how your team does, right?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Do you have another witness?
Yes.
All right, please call that witness. Thank you. Remain standing, Ms. McKenzie, to be sworn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name and please state your name for the record.
Dolores Mackenzie.
Miss McKenzie, what do you do for a living?
I'm the owner of Cedar Market.
How long have you owned Cedar Market?
2 years.
About how many employees do you have?
5.
What qualities do you look for in an employee?
Trustworthy.
Do you know the defendant in this case?
Yes.
Could you point him out? The record will reflect that the witness has identified my client, Mark McClax.
It will.
How do you know Mark McClax?
He works in my store.
How long have you known him?
2 years.
Has he been a trustworthy employee?
Yes.
Do you trust him with the cash register with all the valuables in it?
Yes.
Have there ever been any problems with the cash count?
No.
Were you aware of any items Mark wanted to buy?
Yes.
What did he want to buy?
An iPhone.
Was he willing to work for what he wanted?
Yes.
Did you ever give Mark a raise?
No.
Did you give Mark a bonus?
Yes.
Why?
For his hard work.
How much?
150.
Was it in cash?
Yes.
Do you remember? Do you happen to remember what kind of bills you gave him?
Yes.
What were those bills?
10s and 20s.
No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good evening, Miss McKenzie.
Good evening.
In February, Mark asked you for a raise
Yes.
because he wanted to buy the new iPhone.
Yes.
Mark often mentioned wanting the new iPhone.
Yes.
Mark's friends had the new iPhones.
Yes.
Mark was jealous about his friends having the newest iPhones.
Yes.
It bothered Mark that his friends had the newest iPhones,
Yes.
and he didn't have one.
Yes.
He asked you for a raise to pay the new iPhone.
Yes.
You didn't give him a raise he asked for.
No.
Instead of a raise, you gave him $150. Is that correct?
Yes.
That wasn't enough money to buy the newest iPhone.
Yes.
He told you it wasn't enough?
Yes.
In fact, when you gave him the money, he said that he would find some other way to get the money and buy the new iPhone.
Yes.
He told you that?
Yes.
That he needed some other way to get the money.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Is there another witness for the defense?
No, Your Honor, the defense grant.
Thank you. All right, very well. Members of the jury, that concludes the evidence in this case. We're going to take another recess right now to allow the lawyers to prepare for their closing arguments. That's where they will sum up the evidence that's been presented and tell you what they think it should compel you to do. So we'll take just a few minutes to give them that time.
This court is now in recess for 5 minutes. You may get up and leave your seats, but we will resume the trial in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. This court is now in session. The Honorable Charles Smiley presiding.
Thank you. Are counsel ready for a closing argument? All right. Since the prosecution has the burden in this case, why don't you begin?
Mark McClax is guilty of stealing money from the Berkeley High lacrosse team annual bake sale to buy a new iPhone. Here is why. When Gilbert Mendoza, captain of the Berkeley High lacrosse team, testified, he stated that only 2 people worked per shift at the bake sale. The lacrosse team keeps the money in a gray box at the end of one of the tables. And we know that Mark would have an opportunity to steal the money because oftentimes there is only one other person sitting at the table. Gilbert also told us that the bake sale started around 500 cookies and brownies. They sold each cookie and brownie for $2. So how much money should they have if the team have if everything's sold? $1,000, right? Well, that's what Gilbert expected to see when he opened the cash box at the end of the day. But what did he find? Only $723. Do you think around $250 just disappeared? I don't think so. Mark McClax stole the money. Mark stole the money so he could buy the iPhone that he really wanted. The defense tried to get you to think that there should have been less than $1,000 in the box. The defense would like you to believe that the bake sale might not have started with 500 cookies and brownies, or believe that the bake sale gave away some of the treats for free. But do the math. They were missing around $250. That's more than 125 cookies and brownies. Do you really think they gave that many away, or their count at the beginning of the day was off by that much? Don't be distracted. Money was missing, and we know who took it. When Ed Chin, fellow goalie on the lacrosse team, testified, he stated that Mark asked for a later shift. When Ed asked for more information about why he wanted to work late, Mark said, "It's none of your business." But we know that if Mark had a later shift during the sale, the metal box would have more money in it. Also, during a shift, Mark told Ed to go to the corner and hold up a sign to attract more customers. Ed looked back at the table and saw Mark take money out of the box and put it in his pocket. Just because he sometimes needs glasses doesn't mean he doesn't know what he saw. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an eyewitness. Ed saw the crime as it was being committed. Ed's testimony alone proves that Mark is guilty because A, Mark picked a shift at the end of the day because it should have the most money in it. B, Mark created a diversion so Ed would be distracted while Mark stole the money. C, Ed saw Mark take the money out of the box with his own eyes. Along with that, when Saba Sultan, a friend of Mark's, testified, she said that a few days before the bake sale, Mark had said that he didn't have enough money for the iPhone that he wanted. He also stated that, quote, he would do anything to get it, end quote. The day after the bake sale, Saba saw that Mark had a big wad of money in his backpack. A few days later, Mark had an iPhone. It was no coincidence that the day after the bake sale, he suddenly had a large amount of money. And soon after, he had an iPhone. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark stole that money. The defense team had 3 witnesses of their own, but you know that they are not credible. Rashawn Davis talked about how the bake sale operates, but he is a really good friend of Mark's. He has a motive to protect Mark. Rebecca Epstein, the coach of the lacrosse team, also lacks credibility. Her motive to lie and protect Mark was keeping her team competitive. She told us that the team would fall apart if Mark was convicted because he would get kicked off the squad and Ed would have to be the goalie. And Mark's boss, Dolores McKenzie, may think that Mark is a good kid, but remember that Mark told her that he would have to come up with some other way to get the rest of the money for his iPhone. That other way was stealing. When she gave him a bonus, she was not clear when in February she gave him a bonus. It could have been before the bake sale. It could have been after the bake sale. The defense wants you to believe that our case is a bunch of coincidences. However, there are way too many facts to be explained with coincidence. Mark needed money. Mark took money from the box during the bake sale. And Mark bought himself a new iPhone. Mark McClax is guilty of stealing money from the Berkeley High Lacrosse Team annual bake sale. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Thank you. Closing argument for the defense.
There you have it, folks. With all the evidence you have heard and all the witnesses you have seen, I am asking that you make the right choice. Mark McClax is not guilty. He didn't take the money. He didn't steal the money. He cannot be convicted of this crime. Why, you ask? Because Ed Chin did not see Mark take money from the box. In order to find Mark guilty, you would have to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that he stole the money. And there are many reasons to doubt that Ed saw him take the money. First, Ed, the so-called substitute for Mark if he gets kicked off the team, said that there was a farmer's market going on. That's a reason to doubt because there was a lot of people at the farmer's market and Ed was all the way down the block. That's a reason to doubt. Also, you heard that Ed wears glasses in school, but he was not wearing them that day. Maybe from all that distance, what Ed saw was Mark putting money in the box. Maybe someone came by and took money when no one was looking. Those are reasons to doubt. Now remember, Mark is a lacrosse team goalie. He's the goalie because Coach thinks he's a better goalie than Ed. But Ed disagrees. You heard that Ed thinks he's a better goalie. And he wants to play. How can he make that happen? Well, you heard what happens if Mark gets kicked off the team. If he gets in trouble, he gets kicked off the team. Ed Chin, in that way, Ed Chin can be goalie. That gives Ed a reason to lie about what he saw. That, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is yet another reason to doubt. There are more reasons to doubt. Now, the prosecution is trying to say that they know a crime was committed here because there was only $700 and $2,300 at the end of the day when there should have been $1,000. But remember the testimony of Rashawn Davis? Rashawn testified that the way the team kept track of the money was pretty sloppy. And that they sometimes gave out cookies for free. And Gilbert Mendoza admitted that he wasn't sure there were exactly 500 cookies and brownies to start with. So how do we know they should have ended with $1,000? And that remember Rebecca Epstein, the coach of the Berkeley High lacrosse team, said she was not convinced that anyone stole money from the bake sale. That's a reason to doubt. Saba Sultan said that she did not see Mark steal any money and that he was always a trustworthy person. Those are reasons to doubt. Now, the prosecution makes a big deal about Saba seeing money at the bottom of Mark's bag, even though nobody should be snooping in somebody else's bag without their permission. Well, even though you see some cash at the bottom of someone's bag, it doesn't mean it's stolen. It could have come from allowance or a job. In fact, we know it did come from his job because Mark worked at the Cedar Market. And we heard from Dolores McKenzie, the owner of the Cedar Market, that she gave Mark a bonus and gave it to him in cash. That's where the money in his bag came from. None of the witnesses you have heard here today offer any proof of Mark being guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, now that you are all heard the evidence in this case, I'm asking you to find Mark McClax not guilty of theft. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. All right, members of the jury, you must now decide if Mark McClax is not guilty or guilty of theft. I have some instructions for you. To prove that the defendant is guilty of this crime, the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Mark McClax, took property or money owned by someone else without the owner's permission. As I told you before, proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you very sure that the charge is true. The evidence does not have to eliminate all possible doubt, because everything in life is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. Unless the evidence proves the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find him not guilty. Your decision must be unanimous. That means that all of you will need to agree that Mr. McClax is either guilty or not guilty. If all 12 of you, or 14 as I mentioned, do not agree, that is called a hung jury. I'm hopeful, again, you will be able to reach a unanimous decision. Now, who is the foreperson of this jury? Has one been selected? Aha, thank you. I'm going to ask that you lead everyone in a discussion about the evidence. Please make sure that every person gets to state his or her opinion. All of you, please keep an open mind as your fellow jurors speak. When you are done deliberating, please take a vote to determine whether Mr. McClax is guilty or not guilty. You may now deliberate, and this court will stand in recess for about 10 minutes while you do so.
The jury will now deliberate in the jury box for no more than 10 minutes. You are welcome to go out into the lobby. Court will reconvene in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. This court is now in session.
Let me ask our foreperson to please stand. My question to you is this. Was the jury able to reach a unanimous verdict of either guilty or not guilty?
No, Your Honor.
That's good. All right. Since there was no, you may be seated. Thank you. All right, so when there is no unanimous verdict, we call that a hung jury, and this is a hung jury. I'll have some questions for you later on, but for now, I want to thank the jurors for their service. I certainly want to thank the lawyers for the wonderful job that they did, which is terrific. This will conclude the case of People versus Mark McLax. And for the meantime, young man, I think you're free to leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, this court stands in recess. Please proceed to the lobby outside the courtroom and upstairs for a reception. Thank you.